Secrets of a Small Town Book Club, where we bring our book club to you.
We're so glad to have you here and hope you'll enjoy reading along and discussing books with us.
To interact and follow along, find us on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok at Secrets of a Small Town Book Club.
I'm Kayla.
I'm Kristen.
I'm Katie.
I'm Erica.
And we are the Small Town Book Club. Welcome back, guys. This week, we are talking about 20 Years Later by Charlie Donnelly. This is our second episode on the book, and we will be discussing chapters 15 through 30, which is pages 97 through 205. And man, do we have a lot to uncover.
Gosh, I know, right?
Yeah, are you guys still liking the book?
Yes, absolutely.
It's gotten even better.
It has.
For sure.
It's moving faster, I feel like. At the beginning,
Yeah.
I was a little nervous that this book was not going to flow well and I was going to have a failure as my book pick.
No, I think you've redeemed yourself pretty well, Kayla.
For sure.
So I think it's going pretty well, and I think we have a lot to talk about tonight. So the discussion starts out on chapter 15 with Avery meeting with Emma Kind, which is Victoria's sister. And Emma starts off by telling Avery that her sister was made out to be a monster with the investigation that was starting before she passed away.
Now, what makes you think that Emma is so sure that her sister is innocent? Is it just because it's her sister?
I don't know. I mean, she basically came right out the bat and said that like her sister was involved in this murder investigation and it was a huge case and it was awful and gruesome. And then she said that the police painted her out to be a monster. Like, I think that she truly believed, I mean, and we're going to get into that obviously a little bit further into this episode, but I think she truly believed that not just because she was her sister, but like just the type of person that she was, that she wasn't capable of doing something so horrendous.
Yeah, one of the notes I highlighted with what Emma said about her was she said, you know, when a loved one dies young, your perception of them is placed in a time capsule. You're only able to remember them as they were then, not as they would be today, which I thought was interesting. Not necessarily to the monster part, but how like she'd had this whole envision of what her sister was, what she believed she was. And I think that's partly too why she was so convinced of her innocence, because she's like, that's not who my sister was. I know who she was. And that's still who she is to me right now, because even though she's gone, that's how I remember her.
Yeah, there's just no way that she could believe that she had done something like that. So,
And we should state that Avery has no idea that Victoria was actually accused of murder at this point.
Until she met with Emma. She didn't know.
Oh, that's right. She was just
She
going
had no
for
idea.
the story. I forgot about that part. You're right.
We're jumping the gun a little bit.
I know.
That was my fault.
Way to go, Katie, for reminding us where we are.
That's why we keep Katie here.
I've done my part for this episode. Peace.
All right, so I guess next we can talk about Walt and how anxious he is about this case. I think that deep down he probably had some reservations on it, because he even says there was another reason for his anxiousness, that the case was abandoned, but it was never formally closed. But why would he be so anxious if it was never formally closed, unless he had some type of like reservation himself that something didn't go, to
Not his way.
Yeah.
Well, he says he's the youngest detective in the BCI. So you've got this young, brand spanking new detective who's in charge
His first
of this
big case.
big author is murdered, and you put this novice little detective on the case. Of course there's going to be like
Some anxiety
there.
probably, and maybe he's worried that maybe he didn't do as good of a job as he thought he could.
That's true. I guess we can chalk it up to just his being a newbie.
Well, and even thinking about it when he was there 20 years ago, like thinking, am I good enough to do this? Like, are they sure I'm ready for this kind of case? Like, I feel like probably he felt that there may have been a lot of scrutiny on him too, because he was so young, and that there was so much pressure to solve it and solve it quickly to kind of prove himself. So I think that probably had some to do with it too.
What about Cameron? What are your guys' thoughts on him? I don't feel like they talked about him very much, just because he was in and out
Dead.
so quickly.
He's already dead.
I felt like in the first part of the book, we did get like a little bit of insight on him, because there was that like wasn't there a flashback of like them having dinner together? think that was in the first part of the book. So we kind of had like a little bit of an introduction to the type of person that he was, but I think he's kind of, or maybe that was this section.
Yeah, it was this section
later on.
Sorry. So
Yep.
Because they were out
do
together,
say
the
that he's
couples.
married. So we find out in the section
Yes.
that he's married. His wife thought his work was spectacular garbage.
Yeah, that comes into this
successful
first little bit about the
garbage.
Cameron Young investigation, kind of painting the picture of the Catskills mountain house, and talking about Cameron and his wife Tessa,
Right. And they were enjoying drinks with their friends.
with
Jasper and Victoria.
Ford, and Jasper, Victoria's husband, was the realtor who found them their home.
Yes.
And I have a little note here at the bottom that says, why is Victoria a suspect and not the wife? Because typically, isn't that kind of
It's
the first
always-
place
Yeah.
they go is the spouse?
I kind of wondered that too. Like, just from the very beginning, why it automatically went to her. Like, I feel like there might have been some kind of like tip off that she was the.
Well, they had all the DNA evidence at the scene, too.
Yeah.
Remember? We talked about the urine in the toilet. Like, they went to Victoria immediately. And, Kayla, you and I watch a lot of true crime. I mean, and as soon as they find out someone they want to be the bad
Then that
guy,
person's
they will
just
point
followed. Yeah.
everything. And it's like a prophecy that they,
Well, and
fulfill.
at this point in the investigation, all they had was
Right.
the hard evidence. Usually when you go to trial, that's when the prosecutor tries to prove, without a doubt that all this circumstantial evidence points to this story that they want to tell. And they never got to go to trial.
Right.
So
Because she died.
they literally have the evidence of what they found at the crime scene to go on, and they have nothing else. There's no at this point, I think, testaments other than like what the wife said.
Right.
Yeah, so I guess they just basically have to go off of her word, and she, they ask her about like that. So the sex tape. That's where we can talk about. Like, the sex tape was found. What a way to go! What a way to go out!
All of this, what did they call it? Rough, dangerous BDSM sex, where he got
Tied up in
what's the
asphyxiated
word I'm
and
thinking of? Yeah, autoerotic
asphyxiation.
I can't even say the damn word.
That's okay. We know what you're talking about. Yeah. So the investigation. I think we kind of hit on this last time, where the investigation was not as detailed as we hoped it would be. That it wasn't like, it was just kind of like a narrated part of an investigation.
Oh yeah, not like an actual autopsy report, or it's more of like storytelling. You mean?
Yeah, it's like storytelling. It's not like what you would think. I mean, obviously we don't know what an autopsy report or an
Looks
investigation report looks like, but I feel like it was just kind of like a storytelling time. So it's kind of hard to see, like, I guess it's more just in the point of view from.
Oh yeah, because I have this little note. How is this an autopsy report? Because it talks about how he, Walt, put his glass back on the nightstand and began reading the autopsy report. And then it comes into the next chapter of the Cameron Young investigation, and it's talking about how they found the body, and goes to talking to Dr. Lockhart again, and talking about how the body was found, and all of the little details here and there about, ante-mortem and post-mortem, and short drop
long drop.
versus
I
long
did
drop.
find that fascinating.
Oh, I
did
too.
Yeah, like, if I wouldn't have gone to school to be a nurse, I would have gone to school, and maybe I'll go back to school and do this. I just find it so fascinating that in crime scenes that there is so much that you can figure out just through the different types of maybe like injuries,
How
or
the blood splatters.
splatters, like, or like if they're, like how long the body's been there, and if it's decomposing, how you, like, I just find that so fascinating. So the fact that they touched on that in this book really sunk me back into it. Like, I felt like it wasn't a cheesy kind of investigative book. Like,
They
they
were
put
Right.
some
actually-
Like they
thought
did some
into it.
research to it of what it would be or how it would be presented. I thought it was fantastic.
They
Me too.
definitely took their time.
Yeah. I mean, he has a lot of information about the I guess what they found on his body and how they could determine whether or not it was a hanging like from that distance or if he was
dead before he went over the balcony.
Well, and also they talked about like the welts on his back and thighs from the leather whip.
Yeah, so like the sex tape, we really didn't get a whole lot of, which I guess they didn't really link that sex tape was the day that he died. Like that sex tape was just found.
They just had found it at the home, yeah.
But it didn't really give us a whole lot of insight on what happened in their relationship besides that little snippet. And then you come back and you see in this autopsy report that like he was basically like beaten badly. Like it doesn't seem like it really adds up to me.
No, and the only other piece of evidence other than like what they found on his body and at the crime scene that they have is, you know, his hands were tied behind his back, and they describe these knots as I think they call them alpine butterfly knots.
Yeah,
and
from like climbing,
mountain
something.
climbing.
Yeah.
And as of right now, like who mountain
Who's
climbs?
the climber?
Like,
I don't know.
Nobody mountain
We
climbs.
don't know. That
So
hasn't been
there's
discussed yet.
Is it Jasper when he's not selling houses? Because where's Jasper?
Yeah.
Like, do you think the wife goes
where
mountain
is
climbing?
Jasper? We need to know more about this man and what he has to do with
So
this
it kind of helps.
investigation.
It kind of helps us have some more whodunit questions.
Yeah.
There's so many.
There are so
Whodunit
many.
questions.
And I feel like Charlie, can I just call him by his first
Sure,
name? I
call
feel
him
like
Charlie.
Charlie wants to keep leading us down different roads, and he keeps giving these little breadcrumbs. And that's what I love about us breaking this book down and forcing us to only stay within the certain pages. It's like we're only getting these little pieces and we're putting them together. And as we build our puzzle, it's like pieces are coming together,
Yeah.
but there's still so many missing pieces that I
Yes.
can't see the full picture
So it's
yet.
like he's giving you like a snack. You're
Yes.
enticed. You get a snack to keep going, and then
Are you hungry, Kayla?
I'm always hungry. and then he gives you just a little bit more,
Yeah.
so you're still like engrossed with this
You're like,
book.
yes, Charlie, I will stay with
Yes.
you.
But you still haven't answered my big question.
Yes.
Like that's
Big
how I
question.
feel.
There's like
Yeah.
8 big questions.
There are a lot of
oh
questions.
my gosh. Okay.
I feel like that gives us a lot to talk about, and
does.
this book has been just a great discussion book. There's just so many points that we can talk
Yeah.
about. So
Sorry, go ahead,
No,
Ikra.
you go ahead.
I was gonna say, so after the autopsy and everything, that's when she goes back to see Emma again, right?
yeah,
No.
No?
So
No, because then Walt
Oh, I missed the part.
talks
Sorry.
about the first interview
with
Yes.
Tessa.
with Tessa, Cameron's wife.
And
yeah.
that is when she
go ahead. I'm finding my spot. Go.
This is when we find out that
she may
Tessa
be
may be
pregnant.
pregnant because she kind of
Oh.
confides in
Oh,
Victoria
that's right.
and says, you know, we were trying.
Another question.
Where's the baby? We haven't heard any kind of talking about the baby. So, you know, did anybody else know she was potentially pregnant other than
And was she really pregnant, or was she just telling Victoria that because she had an inkling that
well,
there was something going on?
Do you think she
it's
knew?
because she wasn't drinking at the dinner.
That's right.
true.
When they were all
But
sitting
she
on the patio,
she
because
could
Victoria,
be faking that just to get a rise out of Victoria
Yeah.
because
Victoria,
I think she really knew that there was something going on
You think
between
so?
them.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Well, and then, you know, halfway down the page in this chapter, it's, you know, Victoria slaps Cameron in the face, calling him a bastard, you know. You and you guys are trying to have a baby. What the hell? And then, you know, we kind of find out then that she was also pregnant and he kind of convinced her to
Yeah.
have an abortion.
Yeah, that is.
So clearly I can understand why she would be pissed there. So it's obvious they're having an affair. And now she kind of feels like, hey, like, we're having an affair, you know, aren't you leaving your wife? But no, you guys are still trying to have a
Right.
baby.
Like
Like,
you're creating a family.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I bet there was all kinds of confusion in her head and where that was going to take her in his relationship if he was still actively involved with his wife.
and you make a good point of, you know, maybe Tessa had a little inkling of what was going on, because at the end of this chapter, Tessa gives her husband a piece of ice for his lip
Yeah.
that he
That's
Where
right.
was that at again?
it's on the end of page 123. She gives him a piece of ice, and she's like, "For your lip." And I kind of read that as, you asshole.
Yeah.
Like, what happened?
Because that right after they'd been kissing, right? The 4th of
In the
July
hallway.
thing.
After he slapped her and then kissed her, or she slapped him and then they kissed.
It, yeah. So that then leads us back to Emma, right?
Okay.
We're back
Yes.
to
Yes.
where Emma and Avery are sitting, having some wine, talking about her sister. So this part of the book really got to me. Going back to 9/11 and just the talk that she is having with Avery and how she found out like that her sister was in the building. And I was young when that happened. I was in 7th grade, and I can still remember where I was, and I didn't have a connection to that. And I know it was kind of like, oh my God, I know something bad's happening, but I don't feel like I really realized like
How devastating
it was and how devastating it was going to continue to be, like, even years later.
Yeah, I was sitting in a middle school art class painting rubber cement and rubbing it off of my hands. Because I don't know if you guys have ever played with rubber cement, but it kind of
The
looks
smell of it.
like another substance that's kind of sticky and gooey.
So fun.
So I would paint it on my hands and pull it up. But I was sitting in the class, and I'm pretty sure it was on the television, and I saw what was going on, and I don't really remember what was going through my head as far as like, oh, that sucks. But I don't think I was old enough to really grasp like what was happening.
I remember it was back when there was like the big box TVs on the carts and
Classic.
Yeah, my teacher, it was my science class. She had rolled in the TV cart for us to watch, and we just sat, like, we had like the big science desk, that like the tall things that you do like your experiments on and stuff. And we were all like sitting on top of the desk watching everything just kind of unfold. And I remember like the students around me, there were some that were upset because I'm sure some people, have family that lived in New York and maybe family that was traveling and stuff, but that didn't really cross my mind. But just seeing like the adults and how like devastated they were, that I knew something bad was happening, but like I said, I just really don't think I grasped it. And reading back through this, it's just like, I cannot imagine having a family member that was involved in this horrific accident, or not accident, this horrific plane event, and then have a recording of them like during it while it's happening. And like you have that for the rest of your life, that you have that in your head. I mean, what was she thinking when all of this happened? Like, you kind of have an idea because she's talking, but like, how crazy would that have had to be to have to listen to that
voicemail?
Yeah.
Or
to be
terrifying.
Like, think of maybe like, well, I can't believe I didn't answer the phone. I was sleeping. I didn't answer the phone. Or I wasn't home.
Probably
and I didn't answer the phone.
With guilt now.
Yeah, like she didn't get to talk to her sister for the last time.
Well, in the voicemail, there's two of them. There's the first one that she's kind of, just saying where she is, what's kind of happened, and that she's trying to get out. And it states that she's going up to the roof.
Right, because they think somebody's going to be there to rescue them, like a helicopter.
So there will be
or something.
helicopters. Some are saying to rescue us. I don't know if I believe it, but I'm following the crowd. So then she leaves another one, and it seems to be a little bit more frantic. And she's talking about how, I know you're hearing a lot of crazy things about me, but I promise this is not the story. I need you to prove my innocence. So at some point in this panic of, am I going to survive? She leaves her sister a message because she wants to clear her name and doesn't want to be, left with, oh, well, now I'm gone and everybody's always going to think of me as this murderer, leaving kind of not necessarily a legacy, but that narrative of her.
Well, see, and I think that's where the voicemails come in good, that it's good Emma didn't answer the phone, because if she had told Emma, then it would just be Emma's words saying, my sister is innocent, my sister is innocent. The fact that you have Victoria's voice, if it's her voice, on the recording saying that she's innocent, then I think that's even more evidence if they were to try to push the case to, clear her name.
And can you imagine how hard it has to be for her 20 years later to know that like she has these recordings, and she even says like she tried, that, you know, she's tried and it's 20 years later and
But
she's still not
nobody's-
cleared her name. Like nobody wants to listen to her. She probably has so much guilt.
Can we pause for a second there? Because I was just thinking, you know, so yeah, it's a closed case, not closed. They just didn't pursue it. But if you were Cameron's family, wouldn't you want some kind of justice? Or
Yeah.
are you so like, oh, Victoria did it. She died. I got my justice.
My closure.
Right. Maybe that's it. Because I feel like I've never had anybody murdered.
But
thankfully.
why wouldn't they look into it?
Right. Like, why aren't they
Yeah.
still pushing it? Like, hey, you didn't actually solve the murder of my husband, brother, father, whatever.
Well, I think
maybe a lot of the case files disappeared in like when the buildings came down. If her attorney had all that, and
Maybe.
I mean that took up years of investigating and trying to identify bodies
Yeah.
and
yeah, and
That's
all the
true.
stuff that would have been lost.
Well, and why wouldn't Tessa try to get answers
Right.
for her
Yeah.
husband who
Yes.
died?
right. Maybe
That's what
she
I'm
didn't
saying.
want answers.
So can I bring forth a little theory that I have?
You have a theory?
So Victoria is telling her sister how she is going to the roof. She's following people to the roof because she thinks that's how she's going to evacuate because they can't get down the stairs. But they went forward a little bit, and Avery was talking to her attorney, right? What was the attorney's name? Do you guys remember? I don't have it written down here.
Something Manchester. I want to say Roman. Manchester.
Roman?
Mm-hmm.
And he's telling her his recap of 9/11 and like how they were in his office talking, and it was almost like mid-sentence that the plane hit, and then it was just like probably mass chaos, right? Like they were all evacuating. But he says specifically that he made sure everybody in his office was, ready to go, and they all together went down the stairs. He does say he doesn't remember seeing Victoria there. But if she was there with him in his office,
like right in his office, like right across from
and
him at his
everybody in
desk.
his office made it down the stairs, where's Victoria? Why did she not make it out?
I assume that there's lots of offices in these buildings.
That's how I
but
took
he
it.
was
And-
with her.
Yeah, but they were right together.
were together.
And how is she like a stranger who's not familiar with the building being like, oh, I'm going to follow these people? And how is Roman not like, here, client, follow us
Here,
out?
new client who I barely know.
I don't necessarily think that, but like
There's a
if
plane in this building, and I just want to get the hell out, and I don't give two shits what happens to you.
My thought process is Victoria saw this as her opportunity. And maybe she didn't. Maybe I'm just making up crap. But I felt like if everybody in the office was hurdled together and they were all leaving and going down the stairs and they all made it out alive, that she should have been with them. How did she, one singular person that was in this office with them, get separated from this group who all made it out of the World Trade Center alive, and she did not?
Well, she did say that she's following a crowd, but she said that she was following them up the stairs.
I know,
Correct.
but why?
Well, I mean, maybe genuinely there were people. It like you said, it's chaos.
Chaos.
There's probably people just trying to go any which
Just get out.
direction.
I'm
And
just
do you
trying to
think
put it in your head
you're
that I
on
think
the-
that she's a liar.
You think that they're you think that with there being they were on the 78th floor or something like that everybody's going to think, oh, I'm going to go down 78 flights of stairs, or I'm going to go on the roof where I think there's a helicopter that's going to fly me away to safety.
And because it was so crowded going down that, yeah, maybe there were some people that thought, okay, let me go up instead, see if I can get out. I can understand that
You guys
part.
make a good point.
Didn't she say she started going down and then there was so much congestion that she went up?
She turned around and went up?
I
It
thought.
may have been.
Maybe. I think she's...
So you think,
I think
so what do you
she's
think happened to her then?
I think she made it out. I think she told her sister a fib, and she made it out of the World Trade Center because her lawyer specifically told her, this is going to be a hard case. There's a lot of hard evidence on you that you were there, that everything is pointing at you being the killer, and it is going to take a lot to prove that you weren't, and it's going to take a lot of money. And you better start getting your money together, because if you want to make bond, it's going to be a lot of money. And I think she saw that as an opportunity to be like, there's mass chaos. And maybe she didn't plan it out right then, but she was like,
Just
okay,
kinda
this is an
happened.
opportunity for me.
Yeah.
There's mass chaos right now. And if I can get out of this building and just make a run for it and just get away, that maybe for at least a little bit of time, no one will realize that I'm on the run, that they'll think that I perished
But see,
during this event.
and maybe this is just my opinion because in certain situations, I don't think I would have a level head, and one of which a big ass building coming down to the ground. I don't know if I would have the mental capacity to think like that. I would just be like, I gotta get out. I gotta get out. I gotta get out.
It's fight or flight.
Right.
But they also didn't tell us how much time was in between those two phone calls. Like she calls her first and she tells her that, you know, she's trying to make it out. They're trying to go down the stairs. And then she calls back later and she tells her like, please, you know, just try to prove my innocence and whatnot. Like you don't know how much time was in between those. So maybe she had been in the stairwell with the whole group from the lawyer's office and, you know, they're making their way down slowly and it's taking time, but she's, you know, there's an end in sight. She realizes she's going to get out and she knows that if she just can make a plea to her sister to clear her name, that at least that's out there and then she's gone. And even if they realize later that, you know, she didn't die in this building that collapses, how far away could she have gotten? Like,
She
who
could have
knows?
gone anywhere.
She could be so far away and nobody's going to be looking for her.
That's true.
Because they think she's dead. So
That is a good point.
just my theory. We'll see if it
We'll see.
plays out. I mean, I could be way off.
I mean, I could see it. I don't know. Like Erica said, I don't know that Victoria had the wherewithal to figure that out in the moment to see it as an escape, but
And at the beginning, they had some type of bone to get the DNA.
yeah.
That's true.
right,
I mean,
because they
It's not like
said
it's a hair
they-
strand. Like, they're
Right.
like, oh, we found her hair at the scene.
They said that they had these small bone fragments that they literally had to like vigorously shake
Yeah.
to get the DNA out of it. So
Okay.
it's not, I mean, she could have, I don't know, lost a finger and
It could be lots of hairs. And
You know what?
I know
it
it's
has
not
to be
hair.
a bone
okay.
because of how
She
they
could have broken her
described.
finger.
Yeah, that's what I said. Like she could have
Yeah.
lost a finger, or you know, maybe maybe she's out there with an amputated leg. You know, you don't know.
Yeah.
And maybe she did get away, and they just found her leg.
I know. I just had a thought, and maybe it's wrong, like I said, and maybe it's not. We'll figure it out. But
We'll see.
I wanted to share with you guys what my thoughts were.
No, I think that's good. I think it's a good book to do this with, too, because there are so many theories that you can.
There's so many moving parts.
I know.
There are so many moving parts.
Do we get to the part with when Avery goes to the apartment?
Which apartment?
Well, when she has to pay $500 to get through the door.
Oh.
It's a
That's-
house.
Another
Oh,
moving
sorry.
part.
It's coming.
The brown.
Okay, I wasn't sure.
Yes.
I think that's coming. So first, like after the meeting with Emma, then it goes back into Avery continuously asking for more money.
Oh my gosh.
Yes.
That's why I didn't make a note on that because I thought that part was so garbage. I'm so over it.
Yeah, like, why is she asking? And I don't know. Maybe Charlie, our good friend Charlie, maybe he's all for women's rights. You know?
Yeah.
Maybe he is.
We
Maybe
should
that's.
make,
I mean, I
we
do
should
feel like
make our
he
money that
writes-
we're worth.
I do feel like he writes a women character very well.
he does. And maybe that's why he is continuously going back on this, that like she deserves the money because she is making so much money.
Right.
And she's doing better than her competitors or whatever.
Well,
But I'm sick of hearing about it.
yeah. So and I wonder if the reason why they brought it up this time was because she needed a reason to tell her agent to stall her bosses because
To get the
he finally
story.
tells her she finally tells her
Oh,
agent
right,
the
what
story
she's
that
doing
she's
there.
tracking down, and
Yeah.
he's like, okay, I'll stall them. Like this sounds like it could be something.
Because
And-
at the beginning,
and
oh, good.
if this is as big, the story that she's trying to write is as big as she makes it out to be, like, yeah, they should pay her an arm and a leg because nobody else is going to have
Gonna
this
have something
story.
like this. Yeah. I agree on that.
So, and maybe part of it too is showing that she needs the money because I think it was last week, guys, I mentioned something about like, oh, maybe she's funneling money to her dad, or maybe to Connie. That was the lady at the camp, right?
Yeah.
That got swindled by her
Yeah,
dad.
good
point.
all the money.
Maybe
her dad
she
stole
just
back.
feels so guilty that she wants to pay
Yeah,
her
it's like
back.
a philanthropy thing or something, and she's trying to like make it up.
Well, I
Or-
hope that's what it is, and then it will make me feel better about being so angry about this, or maybe it'll make me feel
the
worse.
money's not for her; it's
Yeah,
for
it's
her,
for
whatever her
Connie.
cause is.
As long as it's not for her dad, then I think
Well,
would
it
be.
might be.
I don't know.
So after that, after she has the conversation with her agent,
Mm-hmm.
she goes to the dock where
Yes.
her yacht or boat or whatever you want to call it used to be. And she stands and she's looking at the postcard and she's looking at the note her father left and then the numbers. And she asks herself, could I really do this? Did I really come out all this way to take care of this? So this right here tells me that the FBI is right and she's at least in contact, if not
Yeah.
aiding and embedding her father.
I highlighted on page 141, she had traveled across the country for another, perhaps more important reason. She was using the identification of Victoria Ford's remains as cover to hide the real purpose of her presence in New York, which was to finish the business of Montgomery family for good. So I don't feel like, because she hasn't told anybody who she is. Nobody knows that she is Claire Montgomery. They think she's Avery Mason, and she can't be coming to like close it so it looks better for her. I think she's coming there to see her dad, and maybe, like you said, maybe she needs the money to give to her dad so he can get out of the country for good. Like she knows he's not out
She's
of the
like,
country.
get out of my life. Get out of this
This
world.
is this
Bye."
is the last I have to do for you, and
And that's what I think the 777 might be code for something. Because remember last time we talked, I was like, what is
I know we still
777?
haven't gotten an answer on that.
No, but
And-
I wonder if it's code for something.
It has to be his location.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's got to be
It
something
has to be
like
something
that.
with his location.
That's what I said last time. I was like, is it an area code?
You know, and I had this as an afterthought, actually. Avery has talked about how much she hates her dad for everything that he's done. But then she also kind of leans of like, you know, this unconditional love for a parent. But my thought, and this is, like I said, this is just an afterthought. What if she is a news reporter? What if she is trying to like turn her father in?
Oh, like she's gonna like lure him in,
Because
and
it says
then
she's trying to finish
write the
this
story.
What
I
if
hadn't
she
thought about
I hadn't
that.
either.
She's very and
at all
the,
these theories
the
we
only
have.
reason that I think
Like real
that's
detectives.
possibly not the case is because she talks about being worried that people are going to connect her to this. But at the same time, if you're that worried, again, we talked about this last episode, why would you be in the spotlight if you were worried that something like that was going to happen? Because eventually it will come out.
Yeah.
There's no way it can't.
Is she just trying to make it like as positive on her as possible?
And that
like,
was kind of my
yeah,
thought. Like
that's a good
maybe
point.
people won't care that I am this felon's daughter
If I turn him
I'm
in.
the one that turns it in. And
that's
then
a
guess
good
what?
point.
I will have the scoop and I will get all the ratings and then
Then
I
they'll
will
pay
get
me
all
more
this
money.
money. And maybe then she'll give it to
to Connie.
Connie.
I hope she gives it
I
to
would
Connie.
like that to happen.
That'd be very sweet.
Or maybe she's gonna start like some type of,
Foundation,
Sailing
Foundation.
for her
school.
brother.
Oh, okay, yeah.
or
Oh,
like maybe
yeah.
she's gonna try to like give the money back to the people that her dad.
All of them.
All that-
Maybe that's why she's getting so much, because it's more than just Connie. It's
Yeah,
all the
she's
ones
trying
he
to pay back
conned.
people.
Yeah, but you really think
That's
she's
a
going
lot
to
of
pay
money.
back
I know.
$50
No.
billion?
$50
dollars?
No.
Yeah,
That's a little bit of a stretch, guys.
that's true.
But if
That
she could
theory
pay
is
back,
Maybe
probably not
Connie,
right.
because, you know,
Yeah.
again, you had said that Connie was like her surrogate mother.
mother,
yeah.
Maybe that's the one she's most concerned with taking care of.
Maybe. What else haven't we hit on
Up
for?
to what? Chapter 24.
So we're starting at chapter 23, where then Avery met Walt at the rum house.
So-
And she's unaware he worked for the FBI.
So the one line I had highlighted in this chapter was Avery was 32 years old and had never been in love. Remember, I'm telling you guys, I think she and Walt are gonna fall in love.
So
I don't know. I don't
She
see it.
might not have known he was FBI then, but he did say that after his stint with the BCSI, actually moved on to the FBI. So if she didn't know then, she is now aware that he is FBI. And it did not indicate that she even like flinched at that. So clearly she's not bothered with the fact that he's an FBI agent, and I think she thinks he's retired. She has no idea that he's been asked to follow her around.
Right.
She thinks he just has the information to the case that she's investigating.
So what, Kristen, you think that he's going to like use this case to get close to her, and then he's just going to be like, oh God, I love you?
I think so. Well, I think anytime you're in close proximity with someone, like, you know, I did a lot of theater, and people know that when you're in a show, there's usually people that get together during the production. I went out with several boys that I was in productions with. So I think it's kind of that similar thing. Like when you have two people who are working on the same project, they're doing something. They've both talked about, okay, we know Walt's been lonely because poor guy's just had his rum in Jamaica for however long.
3 years.
We read the line that Avery's never really been in love and she's in her 30s. So I think they're both in those very vulnerable moments where, yeah, I do think they're going to see something in each other. I don't know.
They're both lonely.
I know
I
Erica's
feel
like, it's
Lonely
not a
Lover
romance
Hearts
book,
Club.
Because chapter 24 starts out with Walt saying he watched The Tall, Attractive Journalist that he'd see
Yeah,
1,000
he-
times on
Yep.
television.
And
So-
and I believe, I don't know, I'm pretty sure I read somewhere where she said that he was, you know, an attractive man.
looking
Yes.
man.
Mhm.
So maybe it's not so far.
So, you know, they're meeting for dinner. They're talking about, you know, at least he's talking about his background with work and things like that, and how he's kind of tied to this case that she's looking into, and how he's, you know, offering up his help. And she's like, if you're willing to help me, like, that would be great. I would appreciate it. So they've agreed that they're going to look into the case together, and he's going to get the case files and all the paperwork and evidence for her to look at so that she can look into proving Victoria Ford's innocence that she promised that she would do for Emma.
And then that brings us to the brownstone.
Yes.
So now we get a little bit of
A new character.
a character. Yeah, there's a new character.
Hope you're all keeping track.
And now it's not about Avery, and now it's not about
Victoria.
Victoria.
Now it's about Andre.
It's about this man who seems like he's going to be making a counterfeit
This man that has a
passport.
mutual friend
Yeah.
with Avery,
Yeah.
who could possibly be this mutual friend that she's about to give $5,000 to produce a single American
how did she
legitimate
know?
passport.
Right? Because she
to
had
come
it in,
to this guy.
Well, and how did she know how much to bring and to have it in like separate envelopes? Because she had like the whole thing for him.
And for Avery to even get into the house, she had to pay $500
Yeah, just to get through the
even
door.
walk through the door
And
to
she
talk to him.
And she clearly had that in cash.
Yes.
So who could she possibly have learned that from?
Yeah.
My thoughts are she's obviously communicated with her dad somehow, whether it be through another mutual friend who, you know, knows where he's at, or himself.
There's no way that
there's
she knew
no
this
way.
information
She
without
has-
being in contact
she
with somebody.
she has to have been either in contact with her father or somebody that is aiding and abetting her father. I mean, who else could the passport be for?
I don't know. I was interested in how they described the guy. I highlighted this. It said, the man said in a German accent that had been Americanized over the years and then tainted further by his time in Brooklyn. And I was just like, I wonder what that accent sounds like. Like, I want to hear Andre talk with the combination of the light German still with the American and the Brooklyn accent. So,
Oh my God, you guys, I just had a thought. Like, literally just had a thought.
What
if, and this is again just an afterthought, I keep having afterthoughts. What if she's getting the passport for herself to legally change her name to break all ties with her father?
oh, that just gave me chills, Erica.
Yeah, maybe.
It's a possibility.
I didn't think about that at all. I thought this whole time it probably has to be for her dad.
I mean, it probably is. Let's be real.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean,
But if we want to look at all options and consider every side of the case, it could be.
yeah.
But
Because I mean, very cryptic on this mutual friend, business that not mentioning her dad. So maybe it's a different mutual friend that they have that.
Well, and for a split second, I even thought, could it be for her brother Christopher? But like they've talked about his death
So now you guys are
so
saying
many
nobody's
times.
died.
Like, it's everybody. It's like
Victoria's
Everybody
not
is
dead.
alive
The
and
brother's not
happy
dead.
and just trying to run.
I can't believe the book right now.
I
Like
know.
everybody's a suspect.
And that's, again, why I like these multiple
Yes.
perspectives,
Yeah, that's
unreliable narrative stories.
Yep.
Because it makes you question everything and it keeps you on your toes and it keeps you wanting to read.
And I will say, typically, I am not a fan of books that are not written in first person. Like,
Really?
Yeah, I would much rather read a book that is written in first person. But I think he did a really good job writing this book. Like, you don't feel like
It's not constantly she, he.
Right.
Yeah,
You're
yes.
just like watching
Yes.
it unfold.
yes.
Yeah. I feel like a lot of times when it's third person, you feel like you're sitting back so far watching in. And the way that he writes this, I feel like I'm right in.
You're like,
I'm
it's
right
like
up
VR.
in there.
You've got like the goggles on and you were like immersed in this
He did
world.
a really good
Yeah,
job
he really
writing in
did.
third person.
Props,
so
Charlie Donnelly.
Yeah, way to go,
Yeah.
our friend Charlie.
I'm liking Charlie's books more and more. So maybe we'll see another one down the line.
So she went to
One more new character, right?
one more new character. She went to procure the passport. Then she goes to the cemetery.
Yes.
I write down, who is Natalie?
Oh,
No.
Oh, not that one?
she's
Cemetery?
You skipped
Oh, the
ahead.
cemetery.
So
Sorry.
she went to the cemetery.
I slid down too long. I'm so
I mean,
sorry,
it
you
is
guys.
just a really short chapter
Yeah,
saying
there's
that
no
she's
new-
just going
There's
to.
no new characters in that part of
No,
the book.
she's just going
Sorry.
to lay flowers for her brother and her mother. And it was
Yes.
just something sad that I wanted to point out and kind of disprove your theory. Like, she's
Correct.
laying flowers
No,
for her dead brother.
absolutely. No, because but we also find out in that chapter that Walt followed
following
her
her.
to all
Yes.
the locations. Like he went to the building, he went to the flower shop, he followed her to the cemetery. Like Walt is following her.
He fell right back
But then
into
you
his old
also,
surveillance
you also
routine.
find out
Detective
that
boots.
they know that she's been coming there every year, though,
Yes.
because Oliver says she goes there every year. So
Yep.
you know that as soon as she lands in New York, they are on her, making
Every
sure
year.
she is not having any kind of contact with her dad.
But why would they think that New York is the only place she could have contact with her dad unless they think her dad is still in New York?
I don't
Would he
know.
be though?
I mean,
That'd
I'd
be a
get,
dumb place to
I would
stay.
get way far out.
I would too. But
So why would they have eyes on her every time she comes?
I don't know.
Is
maybe
it just because
maybe
it's,
they
it's
have eyes
his
on
family
her
member?
more often than they're leading. You know, it's just that this point of view. They tell her Oliver tells him, you know, hey, she goes there every year. We know. So
Yeah.
now we know that she hasn't just been, you know, ghosted out in wherever she is. Was she in California?
Yeah, I
California.
think so. Mhm.
LA.
They know that she comes back here, so they're probably following her a little more closely than she thinks they are.
Well, and isn't it interesting that she comes back to New York every year for her stuff, and Walt also comes back every
Every year
year
for
for
his
his
stuff.
like survivor
Yeah.
thing.
fate.
See, they were meant to be together.
We'll see. We'll see if your theory proves. I
So
don't know.
now,
And now-
Okay, so
now,
who is
Kristen.
Natalie?
Now, Natalie, I think it was said very briefly in a previous chapter that Natalie was Victoria Ford's best friend.
Yeah, I think Emma tells her that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, because she recommends her because Avery's like, who else should
Who
I
else can I
talk
talk
to?
to?
Mm-hmm. But we learn
And
more about Natalie
We learned
here.
that Natalie used to be an emergency room doctor, and now she writes books. How convenient.
Because they started as college roommates or college
Yes.
friends or whatever
Yeah.
and been friends for years. They were really close.
And the way that she was able to get in touch, I don't know if you guys caught this, was through the CEO of Hemingway Publishing.
Mm-hmm.
So Avery had a little in being able to contact Natalie. So that was how she was able to get the meeting, I guess, so quickly.
Because
Oh.
Hemingway Publishing is the subsidiary of HAP Media, who Avery works with.
Oh, okay. I missed that totally.
Oh.
So there's a little in there for her.
So the only thing I really got from this chapter personally was just this irky feeling. And I wrote,
Same.
I have a feeling Natalie isn't really Natalie.
Oh my gosh.
And I don't really know what I
didn't
was
have that feeling.
I don't really know what I was thinking when I wrote that, but I think it was just more along the lines of like, Natalie kind of irks me a little bit and seems a little sus.
shady.
So
Yeah, because how do you go from emergency room nurse or whatever she was to
Yeah.
writer?
To an author.
I
A doctor
highlighted she
to
was
an
like,
author.
I've always loved to read since I was a young girl. Writing was something I dreamed of doing someday, but never figured I'd actually get around to it.
Well, yeah, but how
So-
many dreams do we all have at one point in our lives?
Right.
I wanted to be a figure skater. I wanted to be a marine biologist.
So you said you had some ick on her or whatever.
She icks me.
I had written down early in this discussion that when I guess it was when Cameron and Victoria, they were all having like their dinner and they were discussing her book and how nobody has ever read her manuscripts, like she won't let anybody. And I think that Tessa said this. The market might not be ready for your stories now, but someday it will. No, I think Cameron said that. The market might not
Oh,
be
right,
ready
because
for
he was
your
going to give
story.
her advice
Yeah,
because he
stories
was an
now,
author.
but
right,
someday
right.
it will. So I just have this feeling that Natalie is not who she says she is. Like, how do you go from being an emergency room doctor with all of those years of education and how long it took you to get there, and then just being like, oh, I'm going to write a book?
So does
Yeah.
this
Then she
tie
wrote
in
lots of
with
books.
your
I have lots of theories going on here.
Victoria
I need
Ford's
to
not
get the
dead
board
theory?
out and connect
Right.
it with the
The
red.
Charlie Day.
Yes. Gotta have some red string going around with everything that's happening. I'm not saying that, because I think you kind of almost said that you thought maybe Natalie was Victoria.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think that's the case.
I mean, it's been 20 years. Does
Yeah.
anybody know what she looks
Right.
like?
And that's what I thought about the voice
Maybe.
too. Like, is the voice on the voicemail? Nobody knows what she sounds like. Emma could be lying about that too. So yeah, I
So
don't know
maybe
that we
she
know.
is Natalie. Natalie is Victoria. I didn't think that. I thought that Natalie saw an option to take the manuscripts and make them her own. I don't know how she would have done that if Victoria said she
Never
never let
showed
anybody
anybody.
read them, but
So do
maybe
you
she
think
found her stuff. Like,
Victoria's still alive, and they talked about how Natalie goes to like her little wherever she goes off to
Yes.
write.
She
books.
goes to her New York apartment.
Oh, maybe
So you
they
think-
meet up
yes, I do.
and she's helping her publish them.
That would be crazy.
Well, regardless, Natalie irks me, so whatever
Yeah.
it is, I
Hey,
can't wait to find out.
Give props to Natalie. She knows how to negotiate. Avery needs to take
Right?
take cues from her because they negotiate in less than like 20, 30 minutes. And
Yeah,
they got their deal
if,
done.
But if you really read into that, she's only negotiating by saying, "Oh, I had
got
my
it.
start with
Yep.
you. I ain't going nowhere
I'm
else."
not going anywhere.
So she's not trying
she's
to
not
push
money
for
hungry.
anything.
She just
no.
wants her stuff
out there.
Yeah.
out there. I don't know. I just have a icky feeling about her that something's going to come out. I don't. Maybe she is doing good stuff, and maybe she's trying to support Victoria, who's hiding somewhere. But I feel like she stole her stuff.
Well, and it seems like she's going to be a big character in the future because like she started off like with a bang. Like
Yeah.
there's something there lingering.
Yeah. I do like, though, as much as you guys don't like her, I like the mutual respect that Avery and Natalie had for each other. Like, Avery read Natalie's book, and then when
Yes.
I got there, was like, oh my gosh, I
That
love
was
your
kind
book.
of impressive that she
Right.
went and got her book
Yeah,
and read
then
it before
Natalie's
she
like,
met her.
I love watching your show.
Yeah.
Like, I felt like they were two, powerful
Women
women.
supporting women.
Yes, who had a respect for each other.
There you go again, Charlie, with your
I know.
your support for women.
Yeah.
Girl power.
Go, Charlie.
So now we're actually at what is this, Roman Manchester's
We're back
office?
at his.
I guess this is where it initially actually was because she only went there once, correct?
Yeah, I think I jumped ahead there.
So the
So-
first time it was Victoria
Who was there?
Yeah.
who was in the apartment
Right.
at the very, very beginning, or not
In the
apartment. I'm sorry, at the office
Right.
in the very beginning of the book.
And now Avery
is there.
And I'm looking, I just fingering through the book and I see that they're starting to talk about Maggie Greenwald.
oh
yes,
I
because
did
this
have
is
that
when the
written down.
district
Ding, ding,
attorney.
ding. Another character.
I
Yes.
know.
Who is the DA who was accused
A little
of
sketchy.
like burying
She was
evidence.
disbanded.
She was disbarred
Disbarred, sorry, disbarred.
because she would cut corners on
Yeah.
cases.
What did they call
And
her?
then
Square
She was a
Some
square
square
person
fittings
fitting
in a round peg
in a-
or
yeah.
something like
They
that.
should take the evidence and just forcing it in,
Yeah.
which is what I said earlier about them all pinning it on Victoria.
She suppressed evidence that might have exonerated defendants. So, and it seemed like she did that.
multiple
lot of times.
multiple
So-
cases.
Yeah, enough to get her disbarred. So
Yes. So she was trying to.
So that was
Work
the
her way
DA that was on Victoria
Yes.
Ford's
Yeah.
case.
Yes.
Which I wonder is maybe why it kind of never really.
Like it just kind of
concluded,
closed
it just
because she
kind of
was like,
like-
"Oh, it's settled, and I don't have there's no more media surrounding this, and it looks good on me that it's something in my office that's gone. I don't have to worry about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess that's definitely a possibility.
And this chapter at the very end was also where Avery admitted that this story wasn't the real reason she came to New York.
Yeah.
Okay.
So she talks about that she's investigating.
Oh, and see here it also talks about another reason maybe why the case got closed. Roman says, my law practice was gone. Every client, every file, every computer. I don't remember hearing that Victoria Ford had died for weeks. So,
Right.
you know, and he also says Victoria was a new client. So I feel like that kind of goes with the story of maybe that's why he didn't really pay her much mind when all that chaos was going. He's worried about his employees, the people he works with, the people he sees on a regular basis, and making sure all of those people get out safe, because they clearly weren't able to save any of his documentations or any of his case files. So anything he had was gone. So of course, probably like, you know, out of sight, out of mind after something like that. Like,
And she hadn't paid for
Yeah,
him
not even the
to-
retainer.
yeah, he hadn't even paid.
Yeah.
She hadn't even paid the retainer.
I don't know. I still think that there's something fishy going on there.
Well, yeah. Otherwise, we wouldn't have a book. But
Right.
Okay, so that brings us up to chapter 29. So we're getting close here to the end of our little discussion. You guys have anything on chapter 29 you want to talk about?
Well, I mean, this is when Natalie stated she was Victoria's best friend. And then it talked about how they met each other. They were roommates freshman year. But it did talk about, like, after Victoria had all the accusations, they didn't speak to one another often from that point. And when they did speak, it wasn't ever about the details of her case. However, Natalie, though, was going to provide Avery with, like, a chronological order of their friendship, like
Yep.
how it started, what happened, and give
Key
her
events.
pinpoints.
so that she could kind of get a narrative of how Victoria was as a person to maybe possibly change the narrative of the case against her.
Right, which is really what Avery's looking for, to be able to create this public interest story about Victoria and the remains and all of that.
So then we go into, Kristen, do you want to go into the last chapter? Because I'm sure this is the one you're
Yes.
most excited about.
Oh my gosh. And it was so hard to end with this chapter
it
because
really
I was
was
like, we
tough.
finally got to what I'm saying. Okay, so I highlighted Walt found himself attracted to her, and I made the note, told you. So I loved it. I loved that it was just a little flavor of it and how they're starting to talk, and, you know, it wasn't really couched as a dinner date, but they're having dinner and talking over it. And I absolutely love, because I think it supports my theory. But the other thing I highlighted was when Walt said, love or the law, their man's only two problems in this world. And I put, what could it be?
And that was the last sentence of the...
That was the last sentence.
Yeah. I don't know. I felt like after I read that, I was like, oh, now we have to stop.
I know.
And I can't read any more of this until next time.
So in this here, I want to think about maybe what they're about to start talking about.
Yeah, we have to make our predictions for
Well,
the next part.
And before that, during this meeting, I should say Avery told Walt about
Her
the tape
unfinished.
Emma shared with Victoria, or Emma had shared of
Yeah.
Victoria calling her.
Well, and then Avery also asked Walt what he was doing in New York, like what he was really doing in New York. And he even says that he has some unfinished business to take
Yes.
care of.
Yeah.
So I think they both kind of have some secrets. And, you know, I wonder if they're each going to find out each other's secrets.
Telling you.
Will they
they're
be a
shared.
part of the secrets?
And then they'll fall in love and live happily ever after.
And I think Natalie is actually Victoria. I think she kind of
You
like
think that's what
took
it
on.
is?
Well, okay, think about this. Like a rich doctor could probably go anywhere in the world and lay low with all the money that they have and kind of start a new life. Maybe she's a doctor somewhere else. And Victoria could have kind of taken over her
They
name
swapped.
and swapped, and now she writes under Natalie's name because that's what she always wanted to do, was write.
Yeah.
And if now you've got another name, so, you know, maybe Avery's getting the passport
For Victoria?
You know what? I saw the wheels spinning in your head, and then you were like, "Wait a second.
Wait, no, that's not right.
That doesn't.
That
make
would be a
up.
twist.
But doesn't Natalie talk about her husband and kids? Or is that not the case? I can't remember.
Damn.
She does talk about
I
her
thought I
husband.
had something.
I
going.
was with you. I was like, yes, Erica.
Well, I still think she's getting the passport for herself to change her name.
Maybe she is. Maybe.
I think it's for her
And I
dad.
think Natalie is actually Victoria. Those are my predictions.
I do hope, not a prediction, because my prediction, I'm still sticking with Walt and Avery falling madly in love.
and getting married.
But the
and-
other thing I would like to see is, where's Jasper? Where's
Yes.
Tessa? Give me more of that story. Like, other than knowing Jasper's a realtor, like, I need to know who's the hiker, who knows how to do climbing knots.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like there is
I think
so
we're going to
much
find
more.
out a whole bunch in this next section that we're going to cover next week.
I'm
So
excited.
I am too. So I guess that wraps us up. You guys have anything else to add for this section?
No,
No,
I think
we're
we
good.
covered it.
All right, so we'll be back next week. We ended on page 205 today. And so we'll be starting on page 206, chapter 31, and we'll be reading all the way to page 317. That's what we have covered, right? for the
Chapter
next one?
52, right?
Chapter all the way through chapter 50.
through
So
52.
read,
Okay.
read chapter 52, and that's where we're stopping. So
All right.
we'll see you next week, guys.
All right.
Bye.
Right.
Sounds
Bye.
good. Bye.
Thank you for listening and following along with us. We really hope you enjoyed this week's episode.
New episodes are posted every Tuesday.
Don't forget to follow along with us on social media to be a part of our community.
You can find us on our TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook at Secrets of a Small Town Book Club.
Bye.